Hola y bienvenidos a la Deuces Wild Daily Hustle. Soy Enrique Barnes y presidente de esa mejor cerveza. No abate por No Filter Network. Will the Thrill Clark was with us last night, not with us this morning. Will was fantastic last night, by the way. In rare form, as always, y Miguelito Sandiaguito, not with us this morning as well. I got to give him a shout, see when he's coming back to No Filter Network. I know he was getting ready for a brand new pod that he was going to be recording right here on nofilter.net. But regardless, if they're here, if they're not here, if they're dead, or if they're alive, which we're still assuming, we properly salute our boys. Yes, 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 yes. Woo! Remember this, folks. When we are juiceful, we are useful. And when we are juiceless, we are fucking useless. It is as simple as that. A very pleasant good morning to you on the first day of May. Is that right? Let me see here. That's right. May Day, the first day of May 2024. And per usual, we are sponsored by Bet Online, the number one online betting destination for MLB, golf, NBA, NHL, all of it. They are here for whatever you need. All the latest stats, news, and scores available to follow. Get the latest odds and lines, including the latest team matchups, player props, and odds. Just about every sport you can imagine is there for you. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Bet Online, where the game starts. Okay, so yesterday I wrote a daily hustle that has gotten hundreds of responses, and I truly feel has struck a chord with a lot of people for a lot of different reasons. Well, I'm going to share the daily hustle with you now, and then I'll give you a few more unfiltered thoughts afterwards to make sure we go ahead. And I don't know if it's tying a bow on this because I don't think this issue is going to go away, but it is something that before I decided to write this, and before I decided even to come on here on No Filter Network and talk about this, I feel like if you see an injustice and you don't say anything, well, guess what? That's cowardly. And the reason why you speak up on these injustices is because you don't want them to happen again. The only way something is going to change is if you call attention to something that is not right. Well, I wholeheartedly believe this is not right. So, on that note, here we go. In a second. Buenos dias. Today is a Wooden Wednesday, May 1st, 2024. During the middle of last year, Troy Gloss, a former teammate of mine at UCLA, all-star third baseman, a World Series MVP, informed me that he was taking the head coach position at Buchanan High School in Fresno. Although I was a bit shocked, he would leave his plush set up in Rancho Santa Fe. I was excited for my boy whose passion for coaching and baseball is rivaled by very few people I've ever known. He immediately packed up his family, moved to the Central Valley, immersed himself in the Buchanan baseball culture, and didn't look back. Upon arrival, Troy and the Gloss family put $30K into the program to fix the field, upgrade the facilities, improve the uniform collection, and, check this out, buy baseballs. Yes, a high school program that is a two-time national champion had no usable baseballs. I've been corrected on this, by the way. He actually inherited 40 baseballs. I stand corrected. 7 days a week. If you wanted to find Troy over the past 6 months, look no further than the Buchanan baseball field, where he has either been on the tractor prepping the field or in the trenches working with the boys. Oh, yeah. He has also donated his $12,000 salary to his assistant coaches who were getting paid nothing by the school. On the field, Gloss inherited a team that ended up with one senior starter, 5 juniors, 1 sophomore, and 2 freshmen. Obviously, a very young core group of players that most definitely were going to go through a transitional developmental year. 23 games in the season, Buchanan is 9-14 and has dealt with some issues with the kids, including the recent benching of 4 starters for a game because of disciplinary issues. Buchanan had 1 player transfer before the season and another recently requested transfer because of playing time concerns. For those familiar with high school baseball, pretty standard stuff that all programs will deal with at some point. Well, yesterday, upon the urging and desperate pleading of a group of 3 unhappy players and a small group of parents, Buchanan decided to, quote, part ways with Troy and bring back the old coach from last year. On that note, I just want to take a few minutes and use this Daily Hustle platform this morning to share a few of my initial unfiltered thoughts. On a grand scale, this is the exact problem with what is becoming known as the expectation generation. Ungrateful, self-entitled players and parents being given the power to manipulate decision makers in an attempt to appease their own self-interest is simply disgusting. This is the definition of attempting to prepare the road for the child as opposed to preparing the child for the road. Worse off, the publicly funded people in power at Buchanan, whose job is to make decisions for the best interest of the program, are allowing the disgruntled few to ruin the entire experience for 20 great kids and families who realize what an amazing opportunity they have been given to have Troy as their coach. Buchanan High School, as well as the players, parents, other coaches, and or alumni who had anything to do with Gloss's removal, should be embarrassed and ashamed. Your ungrateful, undisciplined, self-righteous entitlement is a disgrace to both the educational and baseball world. And as a matter of fact, it's an embarrassment to the future of humanity in general. Personally, I feel like Buchanan is doing Troy a favor, and I still have a tough time comprehending why he ever took the job in the first place. Being a high school coach is a thankless job with obviously 0 financial benefits. Yet, the one gigantic reward that you can't put a price on for Troy was the opportunity to share his passion, energy, effort, and top-level baseball and life knowledge with the next generation of hard chargers. Despite the few lily-livered Buchanan go-soft weenies' ignorant lack of recognizing baseball and life lessons, I assure you that the Buchanan High School program and the 20 players who humbly engaged are in a much better place today than before the Gloss family arrived. So, on behalf of the entire Go Hard community looking to honor and reward hard work, production, and discipline, Troy and Ann, we thank you for your service to the high school bureaucratic bullshit baseball world, and with all of our hearts and old school values, we salute you. Whoo! Heavy, huh? Yeah. There's no other way to put this. When I heard what had happened, and I got some of the details, I was infuriated. Now, the funny thing is that I haven't even talked to Troy yet. Tara's talked to Ann. We've gotten details that way. We've gotten details some other ways. But everything you need to know was just read in the email. There were 4 players who were disciplined for some reason. I mean, just think about what high school boys do. And they were disciplined, and they should have been. If I were the coach, I would have done the same fucking thing. Well, that along with the fact that Buchanan has had this losing record and the 4 kids were all starters and they end up sitting, and then the parents get upset and then they want to get involved. And what happened was they're looking at this losing record. They're looking at this kid who was transferred. They're looking at another kid who requested a transfer. Now you got 3 other kids threatening to transfer. The problem with that is Buchanan then hears this and they're like, well, we can't have kids leaving the school. It's time to make a change. Bullshit. Number one, none of those 3 kids were going anywhere. If they had left Buchanan, they have to sit out for an entire year, so they would miss the entire next baseball season, or at least until the playoffs. That wasn't going to happen. Number 2, if you wanted to make a change and Troy's style wasn't for you, it's very professional. He is somewhat hands-off and expects the players to figure out how to get ready and how to go ahead and manage the game themselves. He's set in his ways, certainly, and he's going to have a very unique style. But what I can tell you is this. He is super into everything, and he cares immensely. His entire heart and soul have been poured into this Buchanan baseball program. And so if you did want to make a change, you know what? You have a meeting with them after the season. There are only 6 more games left. And you say, look, it's not working out. Your style's probably not as effective here at the high school level as it would be in college or potentially in professional baseball. And I have a feeling that Troy would have felt relieved. And you know what? Great. Let's move on. Back to San Diego, back to the simple life. Well, instead, the Buchanan powers to be got bullied by parents and potentially other coaches to make the change. Now, on the surface, you could say that this was an embarrassment to Troy. I'm not going to perceive it that way because I know the details. But for an outsider, what are they looking at? Articles that are floating up everywhere. Ex-MLB World Series MVP fired from Buchanan High School. You did them dirty, and it was awful. How you can sleep with yourselves at night is beyond me. Your moral standards are bottom dwelling. And it's a crying shame that you actually would go to such extreme lengths to shit can somebody that gave you so much. This is the problem with youth sports. This is the problem with high school sports, is that it's in a state now where you are giving these parents and these kids a power. You're letting the prisoners run the fucking asylum. It's idiotic. So, from a grander scale, like I said in the email, you've got to think about what this means for our society. Because guess what? This is not how the real world works. And for you parents that highly pressured this move to take place, slap yourself in the face, kick yourself in the midsection, and wake the fuck up. Because you are literally ruining your child's opportunity, not only to play baseball and play baseball at the next level and everything else, but you're ruining him for life. When they make a mistake, guess what? They need to be disciplined. I had coaches throughout the course of my entire life. Number one was Tom Sutter, my Little League coach. And he was a huge disciplinarian. I missed one ground ball, and next thing you know, I had to stay after. This is a game we won like 20-1. I had to stay afterwards with Nathan Anderson, turning double plays with a double play that we didn't turn. And we had to turn 100 before we could go home. I had a PE teacher in middle school, Chris Miller, ex-Marine, former Olympic marathoner, that at one point, I remember I accidentally took out Mike Gilmore's legs. And Mike Gilmore was the best basketball player in the school. I was in 6th grade. He was in 8th grade. A reckless play by me. Gilmore gets up and punches me in the face. Just, I wore it like that. You know what Chris Miller did? Nothing. Nor should have he. It was taken care of right then. That was it. So if you think about coaches who have this sense of, hey, look, I'm going to discipline here. I'm going to discipline here. It's basically like a feel for life, right? And some of the stuff you let work out on its own, and some of the stuff, look, you got to drop the hammer. And so Troy, especially in the midst of a season that's lost, when 4 boys screw up, you're going to drop the hammer. And the other part of this is that it was for one fucking game. That was it. But just a crying shame what's going on in Fresno. And it's really too bad because the decision, the selfishness of few ends up ruining it for everybody. But that is life. So on that note, like I said in the email, I am glad for Troy. I'm glad for Ann. I'm glad for Ty. Like, just onward. That's it. I don't think there's any other way to put it. Okay. Rolling through some of the top stories here this morning. Pest control hero saves the Dodgers and D-backs game from the bees. A few hours before Christian Walker's second homer of the game gave the D-backs a 4-3 walk-off win over the Dodgers. In the 10th inning, a crucial series of events was about to start unfolding at a different type of ball game on the west side of the valley. A T-ball game was just getting started at Surprise Stadium, spring home of the Rangers and Royals, and Matt Hilton was settling in to watch his 6-year-old son, Levi, play the final game of the season. Meanwhile, 23 miles away in downtown Phoenix, there was a problem at Chase Field. With 5 minutes to go before the start of the D-backs Dodgers game, a swarm of bees had descended upon the top of the protective netting behind home plate. D-backs Vice President of Operations Mike Rock was alerted to the problem, and he told both managers that there would be a delay. The danger was that a foul ball that hit near the area would disturb the bees and cause them to move down towards the fans or players. With discussions were going on between Major League Baseball and the two organizations, Rock placed a desperate phone call to Blue Sky Pest Control. Did they have someone who could come to safely and humanely remove the bees? Hilton got the phone call as the T-ball game was getting underway. He immediately hopped into his truck and started for Chase Field. Well, we know that this was really important to get these games going. And so when we hear that there's a bee issue out at the Diamondback Stadium, we snapped fingers and tried to get at it right away, said Hilton. We were happy to deploy really quickly and come get this game going. It took Hilton 30 minutes to get to Chase Field. While en route, he talked to D-backs personnel through what he would need to, It took Hilton 30 minutes to get to Chase Field. While en route, he talked to D-backs personnel through what he would need so they could get the scissor lift and other equipment ready for him. He also told them they would have to allow another 30 minutes or so after he removed the bees for everything to calm down before they could actually start the game. Umpires met with both managers, and Rock said there was talk about postponing the game when they learned how long it would take. But it was decided they would play once Hilton arrived at the ballpark. He was ushered in the cart and driven onto the field, where he received a standing ovation from the crowd. I wasn't expecting that, Hilton said. I thought I was just going to do my thing and cruise out, but it was fun. Instead, he played to the crowd, waving his arms for them to make more noise. As the scissor lift took him up where the bees were gathered, Bonnie Tyler's, quote, holding out for a hero, blared over the public address system. Hilton sprayed the bees with a non-pesticide and removed them into a vacuum for later release. After he did that and the scissor lift lowered him down, the crowd began to chant MVP. MVP. Quote, it was a little nerve-wracking. I'm not going to lie, Hilton said. A lot of pressure to get this game going, but I was happy to come in and take care of it. This is so good. It really is, because you look at the guy. I mean, he's a good-looking dude. And he comes out in his bee suit, and he's got the thing over his head. Just a really cool story. And the fact that the D-backs went on to walk it off in extra innings just made it even more sweet. Okay, yesterday as well, the Rays and the Brewers got into fisticuffs. And look, there's a whole article here, but I can explain exactly what happened. Freddie Peralta was on the mound for the Brewers. Jose Siri, the center fielder for the Tampa Bay Rays, hit an absolute fucking bomb off him. 452 feet. He then comes up his next at bat. He was the only batter to reach. Comes up his next at bat. Peralta falls behind 3-0 and then drills him in the leg. Siri doesn't say shit, really, for the most part, goes to first base. Well, the umpire, Chris Guccione, gets together with the other umpires, and they deem that Peralta's pitch was intentional and that he was thrown at him. So they throw him out of the game. Pat Murphy then comes down. He has a whole altercation with Guccione as well. They throw Pat Murphy out of the game. Look, my take on this is pretty simple. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that they fucking threw at Siri. So, on that note, did Peralta deserve to get thrown out of the game? Yes. Pat Murphy coming out to argue it? Yeah, sure. I see him getting his boys. The Brewers, it feels like they're in an altercation every single night in one way or another. They've had a lot of issues with umpires this season, but they certainly are entertaining. So then later in the game, Jose Siri comes up. Uribe was on the mound for the Brewers. He grounds out to first base. Sort of hustling down. I mean, excuse me, not sort of. Not hustling down. Just goes down, hits first base. Well, Uribe is covering. So he gets the ball, steps on first base, and he sits there and waits for Siri. And then he turns and basically gives him a little shoulder bump. At that point, Siri said something, and it was on. Uribe throws a first punch, a wild haymaker over the top. And then Siri returns fire. It was fucking terrible. It was weak. And I don't know exactly what they were trying to accomplish. But it looked like a couple of monkeys trying to hump a football. There was someone in between. Poor dude went down. I think it was Reese Hoskins that is just like in the middle of them. He goes down. All chaos breaks loose. Look, I don't know what to do with this. Baseball fights, although there have been some really good ones, they're just not the same as hockey, right? So can we get a couple of the hockey boys to go in there and teach these guys a thing or two? Fun times in Milwaukee, though. I certainly will go ahead and tell you that. All right, moving on from The brawl, I put a video up on that late last night. It's recorded like 11 o'clock. I can't let this thing go ahead and die. All right. Everything you want or need to know about the Twins rally sausage. That's right. This is a real thing. To be frank, it boggles the mind that this is a story that needs to be well done. But here we are. Perfect type of story we like to read here at the Daily Hustle. Baseball players can be superstitious to an extreme, and never has that become more apparent than when a summer sausage started getting the credit for the Twins' recent turnaround. And it seems that despite a somewhat concerning appearance and lack of refrigeration, it's going to stick around until Minnesota's fortunes take a downturn. Here is everything you need to know about the Twins' rally sausage. A real sentence that you are reading right now, because evidently this is going to continue to be a thing, and there are clearly going to be many, many questions along the way. First question here. What is the make and model of the sausage? It's a Cloverdale tangy summer sausage, and it's in its original wrapping. It's not tough to imagine future involvement of some sort of Sheboygan sausage, the official retail bratwurst and sausage of the Minnesota Twins. Makes sense. Who was responsible for this? As a typical, these hijinks involved Kyle Farmer. He'd received the sausage in the mail. It was in his locker, and he didn't really want to eat it. So he set it on the table in the clubhouse. Hitting coach David Popkins saw it and brought it in the dugout where it resides on the bat rack. When did this start? It made its dugout debut during the series finale against the White Sox on Thursday. As Ryan Jeffers remembers, the sausage appeared just before he and Edouard Julien hit back-to-back home runs in the sixth inning to finally tag Chicago starter Michael Soroka. What do they do with it? It's a good question. They certainly don't eat it. It's most visible when Jeffers tosses it to a teammate following a home run. But Twins players are said to touch it for good luck before an at-bat too. Quote, it's very weird, very gross, but at the same time, it's working, Carlos Correa said. So we'll stick with it. It says, is this Rocco Baldelli sanctioned? There's a great quote from the skipper that has been floating around and a video courtesy of the folks at Bally Sports North. Here is the quote in all of its glory. Quote, this is Rocco Baldelli. I'm slightly concerned, as I'm not even an adult, but slightly concerned as more of an adult than maybe some of the people in the other room, that the package is going to open up and the thing hasn't been refrigerated in many days. And there's no doubt that when the thing opens up, whoever's touching it is in deep trouble. That thing is, there's no doubt in my mind that we are carrying around something that is very, very unhealthy to the human body. Come on, Rocco. You got to take a bite, man. Is the packaging still intact? It says, good question as far as we know. Yes. It's not wet on the outside, Jeffers says. Surely this is some sort of biohazard. No, assuming the packaging is actually still intact. Probably not, actually. The point of summer sausage is to be shelf safe without refrigeration. But it actually depends on the exact type of sausage the Twins have, which has yet to become clear. According to the Cloverdale's official website, tangy garlic and cracker-sized summer sausage are shelf staples and do not need to be refrigerated before opening. Ooh, I like it. On the other hand, beef tangy, sliced tangy, and grindelli are not shelf stable and should be kept refrigerated. So they'll be keeping a close eye on this. It's going to have mold all over it. Farmer said it's going to grow hair. I don't even know why I don't know what's going on with the sausage thing. I mean, the sausage is secured. I mean, they're throwing it around. They have it. I mean, this is crazy. It's fun though. It's a sausage Shelly. So, how I go ahead and entertain myself here on the Daily Hustle. It's incredible. All right. Another big story coming out of Georgia is Texas A&M baseball coach suspects Georgia pitcher of cheating after suspicious video surfaces from their loss. Texas A&M head coach Jim Schlossnagle believes that a Georgia pitcher was cheating in the bullpen during their game last weekend. Schlossnagle called out Georgia pitcher Christian Moronka in a text to the Associated Press on Tuesday, saying he believes Moronka was putting a foreign substance on the ball in violation of the rules. Moronka was seen on video appearing to work his glove while crouched down in the corner of the bullpen to their Bulldogs 5-4 win over the top-ranked Aggies on Saturday in College Station. Moronka was also seen reaching for something behind the post, and then he was seen in another video touching his thumb area to the glove with his right fingers between pitches while he was on the mound. Moronka pitched the last 2 innings of the win and threw 23 strikes of his 30 pitches. He struck out 6 batters in a row to end the game and complete the save. I saw the John Boy breakdown on this. Once again, he did a fantastic job. Yes. Was he cheating? Of course. Now, I just question how much of it is actually cheating, because to have a pitcher have a decent grip on a baseball is fantastic. To go ahead and take it to extremes where we're really manipulating the spin rates, that's bullshit. On that note, it's probably something worth looking into. The question is the NCAA going to do something about it? I mean, you got to believe they're micromanagers of fucking everything else. Why wouldn't they micromanage this right here? I would not be shocked to see a potential suspension, but is there a way to guarantee that what he was putting on is illegal? Because I've heard people say put sunscreen on or this or that. And I don't know what is legal when it comes to rosin. Would be another one that typically is legal. So did it completely change the outcome? Who's to say? But I'll tell you this, Moronka was throwing absolute shed, and that ball was riding through the fucking zone. So he clearly had a firm grip on the baseball. Don't be surprised to see the NCAA come out in the very near future addressing this. Okay. On the same note, let's do this one right here. I found this fascinating, and it's just kind of on theme with everything else that we've been talking about. Deion Sanders is ripped by former Colorado player that he was destroying guys' confidence. Deion Sanders' arrival at Colorado's head coach in December in 2022 led to an unprecedented number of transfers, but a new report revealed that many players weren't happy with Coach Prime's approach to the situation. Former Buffalo safety Xavier Smith was among the players who spoke to the Athletics' Max Olson and criticized the way Sanders handled the roster turnover ahead of the 2023 season. Quote, "He was destroying guys' confidence and beliefs in themselves," Smith said. "The way he did it, it could have been done with a little more compassion." A total of 53 scholarship players transferred out of Colorado by the end of last spring. Olson noted that 20 of them were removed in a single day by Sanders following the Buffalo spring game. It was also reported that 15 transfer players landed at Power 5 programs. So let's start there. 15 of the 53 ended up in Power 5 programs. 22 at Group of 5 programs. I don't even know what the fuck that is. 11 in FCS or Division II, and 2 at junior colleges. 3 players went unsigned and haven't played since. When Colorado opened the 2023 season, a total of 87 newcomers were on the rosters. Buffalo started 3-0 before disappointingly finished the season with a 4-8 record. They won one game the season before that. And so I get it. Your feelings were hurt. There were a lot of, 53 guys that were replaced. A small percentage of those got to play basically at the same level that they were playing at, which goes to tell me there were a lot of dudes that were at Colorado that should have never fucking been there. And I'm sorry that your feelings were hurt, but sometimes truth and facing reality is important for each and every one of us. So instead of coming out and saying, man, I just wish he had more compassion, he's trying to run a fucking football career. His job's on the line, right? His name is on the line. Did the parents call in too? Are the parents trying to get Deion fired? What a joke. It's just how our cultures come to this. It's actually sad. It really is. Look, the bottom line is this is a dog-eat-dog world. And when it comes to Division I college athletics, when it comes to professional athletics, it's all about winning. And as much as I'm sure Deion, who seems like an incredible person to me. Do I know him personally? No. Seems like a fucking amazing dude. To come back later and criticize, of course those people, weren't thrilled. Yeah. You got cut. See ya. Just like that. But at the same time, you also have to look at it and say, hey, I respect the man's decision. And he gave me an opportunity instead of sitting my ass on the bench for the next however many years, gave me an opportunity to transfer. I think the biggest thing in all this, and I run a youth baseball team, right? And one of the things I've always told the assistant coaches and the other parents, I just want to be upfront with you. So if we're going to go to a tournament and we're going to hit only a certain amount of kids, only a certain amount of kids are going to play, whatever it is, either we're not going to bring the kid or we're going to be very upfront with him on the role that he's going to be facing. Do they have to like it? No. Do they have to agree with it? No. I actually don't want them to agree with it or like it. I want them to get better. I want them to keep charging. I want them to figure out what they have to do to elevate their game. Well, sure enough, a lot of times when they take that approach, it works. And when they don't, well, in the very near future after that, as you have seen with a lot of the Colorado kids, they're not even playing fucking football anymore. All right. Let's see here. Kind of an inspiring story. Nebraska brothers sucked out of their home by a tornado, and they survived to tell the tale. It was Friday afternoon in western suburb of Omaha, and Roger Slayton had just left for work when he got a phone call that would change his life. A tornado was spotted near his home in the Elkhorn neighborhood, and he needed to get to safety. His friend urged on the other line. Roger turned his vehicle around and raced towards the home he shared with his wife, Lindy, and his brother, Royce. Lindy was at work, but Roger called ahead to his brother and told him to grab the two dogs and get to the basement. Roger pulled into the driveway and ran inside, but neither brother made it to the basement. Just 1 minute later, a tornado with at least 136 mile per hour winds ripped the brothers out of their home and reduced it to rubble. I've never seen wind do what it was doing, Roger told CNN. I never expected something like this to happen. I mean, you do live in Omaha, Roger. The tornado that destroyed the Slayton home was just one of dozens that roared across the plains from Thursday to Sunday. The Slaytons and their dogs are lucky to be alive after the ordeal, but at least 5 people, 4 in Oklahoma and 1 in Iowa, were not so fortunate. Basements or the lowest, most interior rooms of a building are the safest place to be during a tornado. But when this one hit the Slayton home, the brothers were running to an upper floor to search for their Yorkie poo, Nico. They couldn't find him, and it was too late to get to the basement. The tornado had arrived, and the house started to crumble around him. We could feel the floor separate from the foundation. As soon as the wind got under it, and it just vaporized the upper end of the house, Roger said. The brothers locked eyes for a moment before they were thrown from the house. We were both trying to head downstairs, and we kind of looked at each other, and I was certain that it was the last time I was ever going to see my brother because the house took off. Roger remained conscious as he was thrown into the air, doing head over heel cartwheels while being pummeled with debris before he hit the ground, only to be pinned down by more rubble. I face planted on the ground and got buried in the rubble, which luckily protected me from getting sliced up by any glass, but my legs and arm were pinned. Royce Slayton only recalls snippets of his descent through the air. I remember being ripped out towards the back of the house after it was lifted. I remember hitting the ground and coming to it afterwards and just feeling like the whole house is ripping into my back. It was the most intense feeling I ever had in my life. Royce landed in the backyard. Unlike Roger, Royce wasn't pinned by any debris and made it to a neighbor's house running on pure adrenaline. Once I got up, I started screaming Roger's name because I didn't see anybody. I thought he was dead for sure. Meanwhile, Roger was able to get one hand free, called 911. First responders arrived shortly after and freed Roger, but Royce was nowhere to be found until another neighbor pointed Roger in the right direction. The brothers' reunion was a massive relief. Royce is a member of the National Guard and was deployed overseas last year, but Roger said he was more relieved to see him after being separated for 20 minutes than the almost year that he was gone. Shortly after the brothers' reunion, rescuers pulled tiny Nico from the rubble. Hours later, their other dog, Rogan, was rescued by the Humane Society just down the road from where the house once stood. Both dogs are actually doing okay. I mean, look at this. I mean, obviously, this dude's got jacked up. Jeez. Looks like someone took a whip to the back. No bueno. Royce was cut up quite badly. His injuries required 22 stitches. And he said it's a painful walk. A couple days after the storm, he didn't have shoes on when the tornado hit and had to walk barefoot through the debris. Oh, Roger didn't fare much better. He suffered multiple bone bruises from heavy debris landing on him, was punctured in the back by a nail, and received multiple cuts on his face. The house is totally destroyed, reduced to the basement foundation. Most of their belongings are gone. The brothers said the basement they have sheltered in collapsed and was crushed by a tree from a neighboring yard. The destruction to their home is something the entire block is dealing with, but the destroyed community is rallying around the recovering brothers and each other. A lot of people have asked if it's the scariest or worst thing that's ever happened to you. Honestly, the good has somehow outweighed the bad, Roger said. It just feels so unbelievable. It feels written. You know, I'm alive and we're healthy. It could have been so much worse, and we're here. So I'm grateful for the support and so grateful to the people around us. That's the fucking attitude, Roger. That's what I'm talking about. You got ripped up into a tornado, house destroyed. But guess what? Not only are you alive, your brother's alive, and your fucking Yorkapoo, Nico, is alive too. So, go ahead and face death like that. And you wake up in the morning, everything else is easy. Love that quote, right? We're still breathing. We are still breathing. Okay, a quick look around MLB and out of here. 10:41, got 11 o'clock. Pickle, want to hit the power rankings? I don't know. Power rankings, scores. I got this Jason Whitlock article. MLB power rankings are top 10. Sees some shuffling. Who is your team's early MVP? All right, here we go with the power rankings. Number 1, the Atlanta Braves, 19-8. They've been sitting atop. The MVP at this point, Marcell Ozuna. Number 2, Los Angeles Dodgers. They're 19-12. Their 1 month MVP, Mookie Betts. New York Yankees, 19-11. Obviously, their 1 month MVP, Juan fucking Soto. Stay hot. Baltimore Orioles, 18-10. Their MVP, 1 month in. Gunnar Henderson. This dude's legit. He is something else. He is fun to watch. 5, the Philadelphia Phillies. They've been playing well. Record 19-11. Big comeback win last night against the Angels. So their 1 month MVP, Ranger Suarez. Rounding out the top 10, the Cleveland Indians, noting Steven Kwan as their MVP. Chicago Cubs as Shota Imanaga. I'm not saying that right. Imanaga. That's right. And you know who else could be the MVP of that Cubs team? Craig Counsell. What a terrific job he's been doing. Seattle Mariners. All right, number 8, Logan Gilbert is their named MVP. Milwaukee Brewers are at number 9. I'd probably put them higher. Bryce Terang being noted as their MVP. And then the reigning world champion, Texas Rangers, sit at 10. They're 15-14 with Marcus Semien being their 1 month MVP. All right, scores from last night around Major League Baseball. It was 2-1 St. Louis over Detroit. They played a doubleheader. Then it was Detroit 11-6 over St. Louis. The Baltimore Orioles stayed hot, 19-10 now. They go 4-2 over the New York Yankees. Miami Marlins 7-6 winners over the Colorado Rockies. Toronto falls to Kansas City at home 4-1. The Cubs went down to the Mets in Queens 4-2. San Francisco, Thrill and I were doing an alternative broadcast for that game yesterday right here in Studio 22. They lose to the Red Sox 4-0. White Sox go down to the Twinkies at 6-5. Real rough start for them. They're 6-24. The Brewers 8-2 over the Tampa Bay Rays. We talked about the shenanigans that went on there. Texas Rangers 7-1 winners over the Nationals. Houston, what a game that was. 10-9 over the Cleveland Indians. Philly comes back late to beat the Angels at 7-5. Mike Trout, to the injured list, is going to have surgery on his knee. That just sucks. He was having such a fantastic year. Arizona Diamondbacks, the walk-off winners. It was Christian Walker. I think it was the second home run of the night, 4-3 over the Dodgers. All the buzz there, though, were the Bees. How about the A's? They're 14-17, creeping back towards 500. 5-2 winners over the Pittsburgh Pirates, who are reeling. Look for Paul Skeens to come up shortly. Pitched 6 innings the other night, and his pitch count is now getting to a point where you could put him on a major league staff. Let's fucking go. Quit wasting time. San Diego Padres break their losing skid 6-4 over the Cincinnati Reds, and it was the Seattle Mariners, who are now 17-13, 3-2 winners over the Atlanta Braves, still sitting at 19-9. All right, of all the shows, that certainly was one of them. Back on tomorrow morning with the Daily Hustle. That's it. See ya.